Hello, it's John, Yin Young Gemini. It's been a while since I've said anything about some pop culture stuff. Going to try and rectify that now. Um, Glasses are very reflecty right now, so let's do this. Okay, couple things. Um, Doctor Who started in 1963. Didn't start getting shown into the US until late 70s, and I'm from Cleveland, so that was about 1981 or so uh, when Doctor Who started being shown, and it was with the Fourth Doctor, with this key for the TARDIS. That's what I do. And that's about when I started watching it. Our local PBS started showing about 1981. Mom got interested, and then I watched it with her. So I've been watching Doctor Who for virtually my entire life. All save a year, 2 years, 18 months, somewhere in that ish sort of definable era. Um, as such, remember when 2005, when the new show started coming out, I admit I was a little apprehensive because I remember in 1996, I want to say, when they had the Eighth Doctor movie, and that was kind of bad. I had since watched it again, and I realized, man, Paul McGann was really, really good, and I'm really sorry for him it didn't pan out more because I would have loved to have seen more of him as the Doctor as opposed to just a really not good TV movie. Um, but there's a couple things about, as much as I do like, backtrack just a second, as much as I do like the new revamp show, the modern era sort of ones, and I've liked all the Doctors, and yeah, pretty much most of the companions and a lot of stuff they're doing with that. There's a few things that kind of bug me. One of the thing is I miss just just having an adventure. Everything so much has have to be, oh, the consequences of being the Doctor. Oh, well, he's got all this stuff and all these enemies and all these things. And what's it when you have 1,000 years of blah blah blah? You know what? I mean, that kind of just the adventure of it really isn't there anymore in a lot of ways. Sometimes it is, and then sometimes it gets kind of like, all right, we get it, just can we have some fun for once? On top of that, um, sort of with that too, there's way too much Earth and humans. And granted, yes, the third Doctor was on Earth because he was exiled there, and there's always going to be a big interaction between Earth and humans, etc., etc. But you know what? Even with the classic ones, some of his companions might have been human or humanoid, but they weren't necessarily from Earth. There was more sort of aliens, there was more sort of creatures, just less Earth every day, only humans every day, all day. It's it's kind of annoying. I really want we have the new companion coming out after Clara. She looks pretty cool, but I would also like to see a freaking alien, the definable alien as the Doctor's companion. You know, um, Even if it's Star Trekky, where it's just kind of ears and some eyebrow stuff and a bowl cut or something like that. Just something where it's a definable alien. It needs to be less humans, less Earth. Even if there are humans not on Earth, okay, just stop. Do something different. Because it just becomes really soap opera after a while. Um, so those are kind of things. One of the other things, it was just a smaller kind of minute thing, and it kind of bugged me. With the 10th Doctor, the Master was able to pilot the TARDIS. No. No, because the TARDIS should be isomorphic. They made a whole point of this, even in Pyramids of Mars. If something as powerful as this god, basically, couldn't do the TARDIS without the Doctor, neither should the Master. Isomorphic is 1-to-1. One person can control the one thing, that's it. And I thought, okay, well, maybe they're going to quietly shuffle that off to the side and we're done with it. Pretend it didn't happen. And then literally the next sort of thing, the Master is magically able to have a laser screwdriver, which in the words of Ultimate Wolverine to Ultimate Sabretooth, yeah, that'll make sure people don't think that you're a Hong Kong knockoff of me. Paraphrasing a little bit. So he had an isomorphic laser screwdriver that the Doctor couldn't use, but supposedly the isomorphic TARDIS, which is infinitely more complex and intelligent of a machine, can be used by the Master, even though that should be isomorphic too. So that was just one of those sort of nerdy little nitpicky things that just bugs me. The singular biggest thing that bothers me about the news show is the age of the Doctor. Bothers the heck out of me. I remember when the fourth Doctor told Sarah Jane, I think it was Pyramids of Mars as well, that he was like 756, something like that. And he was too old to be running around after the Brigadier. Later on, even with Leela, and here, not necessarily represented by K9, but Leela and K9 were in the show together, and there's no Leela Funko available yet, so K9. He was said 750s. Fifth Doctor, again, no Funkos available, talking about being in his 800s. I can't remember exactly how old the seventh Doctor said he was in the eighth Doctor movie, but the sixth Doctor talked about being 900 years old, and the seventh Doctor, when he regenerated, said he was the same age as the Rani, which, if memory serves, was roughly 950, 956, something along those lines. So, even if we take out the War Doctor, there is a Funko, but I just don't have it yet. We take out the War Doctor in terms of, well, he's kind of embarrassed about him anyway, so he's going to maybe not count. We just threw it out. Besides the fact that when Russell T Davies brought the show back, there probably wasn't an idea for a War Doctor, so that wouldn't have counted anyway. So even if we take that out, that would have meant that the eighth Doctor would have had to have aged backwards. Somehow he would have had to have been going negative to his own timeline. So, you know, the seventh Doctor starts off over 950 years old, and then somehow throughout his lifetime he goes forward, and then the eighth Doctor somehow retreats, and there's no more age and then less age for that, which would make the ninth Doctor then 900. I don't know how they counted that. I mean, they brought in so much other stuff. They made specific references, like when they had Sarah Jane and Rose, again, not one I have Funko-wise. They were talking, they brought up specific things, like Loch Ness Monster, and they talked about, you know, that whole sort of stuff, and the specific monsters that they talked about. They talked about, you know, this series, the new series, is going to be a continuation of the classic show. Totally screwed up his age. And then you get 9 and 10, basically, as far as I can see, each season is only 1 year of their life. So 9's only about a year when he regenerates to 10. 10's only about a year and a half old, maybe 2, when he regenerates into himself. And so it's only, what, 5 years? He's only been the 10th Doctor 5 years, both sets of the 10th Doctor, when 11 comes along. And 11, they have to actually basically skip ahead 200 years just in weird timey stuff with that to say that, oh, okay, well, now I'm like 1100 or so, something like that, just because I don't know if they just wanted to bump up his time to closer to where it should be. But his time, his age is so completely off. And I think the closest thing that they did to being able to rectify that is in the 50th anniversary episode, where they talked about, you know, the 11th Doctor saying, well, I could be lying about how old I am. That's how old I am. I could be lying. But the War Doctor is even saying he's only like 800 years old. So maybe it wasn't the 8th Doctor, actually, now that I think of it, that age in reverse. It would have been the 7th Doctor, which would have made sense, because out of the classic Doctors and even the modern Doctors, he is the weakest of the ones. I know some people who would disagree with me, but sorry, they're wrong. I don't know if it's just the writing. They couldn't figure out what to do with him or what. They couldn't figure out what to do with him. He was probably the weakest out of the Doctors. I used to think maybe 6, and then I grew up and was able to see past his costume and be like, no, he's actually kind of a fun Doctor. 7th, not so much. So maybe a 7th or 8th Doctor, one of them or both, had to have aged backwards in order to get the age line to be where it is. Unless, this is the only other thing I can think of, is that they're not counting the first Doctor's, his original sort of, I guess, like birth face, as counting in terms of his time. So, I mean, I'm blanking right now about how old he was supposed to be. Let's just say he's like 200 years old. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, when he regenerated from 1 to 2, he was roughly 200-ish or so years old. You know, maybe more. So they took that out. You know, that might account for, and they don't count the War Doctor. You know, we've kind of hidden him back here for right now. So they take out that. So they actually are saying his age as how long he's been away from Gallifrey. How long it is since he and Susan stole the TARDIS and then left. That's the only real way, especially if you take out, again, the War Doctor's age, that he could be 900 and it still be accurate to the classic series. That's my best guess for it. But yeah, that's sort of like the real main thing that just sort of bugs me every time they bring up his age. It's like, no, it's not right. Eeh. So that's it. That's just the thing I was just kind of saying. And going in and some of this stuff just kind of bugs me about it. Still like the show, still waiting for it. Big fan of 11. Gonna miss River. I think that's pretty much all my Funkos now, except for the Dalek. But that's not really here or there right now. So yeah, some brief stuff was kind of things that kind of just bug me a little bit about the modern Doctor Who. Please like, subscribe, share, and all that good YouTube-y stuff. Everyone always asks you to do. Other things will be pending, and with some more regularity. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon.